Howdy, Rex here.
And Lou, broadcasting not live, but pre-recorded from the Rex Cave.
I'm alive.
I'm alive and well too, I hope. Or we were anyway at the time of the taping here.
That is true. So today we're going to talk about gunsmiths. I get a lot of questions of folks asking who is a good gunsmith to go to, or what kind of guy they need to look for to do work on their weapon. Okay.
How to find a good gunsmith.
Yeah, what are you looking for?
Because they come in all different flavors, old, new, and all different levels of experience, and sometimes it can be hard to differentiate the good from the bad.
That's true. And so this is a discussion that I think is going to be very helpful for a lot of folks, because there's a few things that maybe some people don't think about. There are lots of really good gunsmiths who are excellent gunsmiths in certain categories, but then in other categories they just kind of meet your standards.
So the first step is probably to narrow down the field of expertise, finding somebody who does the work and excels at the work that you need done for your particular rifle or handgun.
Exactly. And that's probably the biggest mistake a lot of people make. Now, pretty much any gunsmith who's been to a gunsmithing school and is an actual experienced, competent gunsmith will be able to put a firearm back into its original working condition. So for fixing stuff that's broke, for maintaining firearms, for keeping them operating the way they're supposed to from the factory, and even improving on their performance, most gunsmiths are going to do just fine in that, most competent ones.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's not something you have to really worry too much about. However, if you're really going to get into a certain craft, right?
And fine-tune that craft.
Yeah, like if you're really into something, like if you're a cowboy action shooter, and you need someone to make your 73 Single Action Army high speed, right?
Then you're going to want to find a cowboy action gunsmith.
Yeah, someone in it, the guy has to be into it too. That would be my recommendation. Now, most firearms are relatively simple tools, and most of your gunsmiths are going to understand the basic workings of them. However, the idiosyncrasies, the details, is where you really get that extra level of experience from someone who is passionate in that field. So if I'm looking for someone to work on my lever actions, I'm going to find a guy who's got the big handlebars mustache, who's into it, I'm serious, right? Who competes, who knows, who's been through all the stuff, who's seen that stuff work and seen how it doesn't work, seen all the possible malfunctions, who's competed in that world. Because they're going to know all the secrets, all the tricks. They're going to get that thing actually running real smooth. So if you're looking for one of those guys, that's who you want to be looking for.
So you want to find somebody with not only enthusiasm, but expertise.
In that particular craft. Yep. And same would be true for like handguns, like as far as like 1911s. That's a whole nother weapon. And that has its own character. So you're going to want to find someone who's just real passionate about 1911s, if that's what you're doing, if you're going to be into it. Now, if you just need a basic job done, any competent gunsmith is going to be fine in that.
Same thing goes with competition shooting.
Yep, absolutely. And there's a lot of, for example, like AR-15 three-gun matches, a lot of guys run ARs. A lot of these semi-automatic rifles are a whole nother world, and they have a whole list of things that is completely different than lever action or, different like bolt actions. So you're going to want to find someone with experience in three-gun so they can get the weapon balanced out, get the right buffer tubes, the right spring assemblies, the right muzzle brake, get everything polished in the right spots, get the right trigger for the setup that you're going to be doing. So if you're doing competition three-gun match stuff, you're going to want to find a guy who has experience in that field and who is passionate about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And same thing goes with your military and law enforcement applications.
That's true too. Now, just because it might be the same weapon, like there's a big difference between someone who's into competition shooting with an AR-15, for example, and someone who is an armorer for a more serious unit like military law enforcement applications, because there's a whole nother thing they're trying to accomplish there. So you don't want a three-gun competition guy probably to do a battle rifle unless he's aware of the criteria that needs to be met for that, because they might be tempted to make it a good three-gun type setup, right? And in a battle rifle, you need absolute reliability. So they're going to more err on the side of putting it to the military specifications, they're going to open up the gas ports. It's going to slam hard. It's going to be hard on the rifle. It's not going to be comfortable to shoot. That trigger's not going to be that nice 3-gun competition trigger, but it's going to be a good battle rifle configuration for that application set. And that's a whole nother video right there of how to set up like a AR-15 for battle applications versus, you know, prairie dog hunting or varmint shooting or competition shooting, because it's a different world. There's a whole other set of human biology that enters into the equation when you're talking about a military weapon, right? In extremely stressful circumstances, and all the stuff you're going to err on the side of absolutely stupid reliability in that case. So that's something you want to make sure you clearly articulate to your gunsmith whenever you're picking them, is what you're trying to accomplish with the deal. You just don't hand them your rifle and say, hey, make this awesome. Well, awesome for what?
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
So you really don't want to sacrifice anything, your main criteria for something that isn't worth it.
Yeah, right? Well, it's like, you know, these pickup trucks. Let's say I go down and I take my truck. Man, I want to make my truck really cool. It's going to be so cool. And you take it down to the just random shop. Make this truck awesome. Well, if it's one of these homie guys, you're going to get your truck back with its 4-wheel drive off-road capabilities severely reduced. But now it's going to be low, it's going to be pimped out, it's going to be cool, you're going to have your big stereo in it, and it's cool, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. You can race with it, take the corners better, whatever them things are made for. But if you're trying to climb rocks, that was extremely counterproductive. So that guy doesn't suck at his job, he was just doing something different than what you were trying to do. So you got to be aware of the application, you have to clearly communicate that to the guy.
Yeah, it's different definitions of cool.
Yep.
Finding the right body shop or finding the right gunsmith and matching your needs with their expertise.
Yep. And another big deal, too, is if you're talking about, like, precision rifle shooting, which is kind of more maybe of what our audience is, you know, going to be into because we do the long-range shooting tutorials and stuff. That's a whole nother set of criteria there, because you're looking for a rifle that you're getting the absolute maximum precision out of it. And there's different circles of that. For example, you have guys who are doing it for competition purposes, and you have guys who are doing it for more, like, real-world applications. So when you take this rifle in, like a bolt-action rifle, to have an accuracy job done on it, you're going to want to communicate that to the guy of what you're going to be using it for. Mm-hmm. If you're using it for hunting applications, you know, it depends on big game hunting or varmint hunting. Varmint hunting, they're going to have a tighter chamber maybe. They're going to err on the side of precision. For a big game hunting gun, they might say, hey, you might be up in the mountains and the snow and the ice is blowing on you. Let's have maybe a little bit more room in there so that it's more reliable. Okay? Or for military stuff, they might have more of a mil-spec chamber so it can function with NATO rounds. You know what I mean? So you got to really articulate what you're going to be doing with this rifle and make sure they understand what they're going to have to do to meet your mission criteria.
And that, of course, is assuming that you're taking your applications to the next level and not just run-of-the-mill fixes that you can have done at
Correct.
Whatever local gun shop. This is expertise that you're looking for in the field.
Yeah. I'm pretty blessed up here with some pretty decent gunsmiths who actually are really, really pretty well versed in both crafts, you know what I mean? So, and you don't need to spend like a huge amount of money on one all the time. Although some of the really, really good guys are going to maybe charge a little more, you do get what you paid for to some degree.
Absolutely.
But if it doesn't take like Einstein necessarily to do it, although that can be incredibly helpful too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because like it's relatively simple what you're trying to accomplish, but that guy has to have enough experience to know what those simple things are.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So expertise, enthusiasm, and there was one more.
Yeah, well, I suppose experience in that category.
Yep.
Yeah, and match in that application. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Your area of expertise, Rex, of course, is long-range precision rifles, and that's kind of what the audience on your YouTube channel and all across the internet, what they expect from you, and what can you offer to the discussion with your experience?
Well, if you're looking for a gunsmith to work on like a long-range rifle, and for our application, I try to I like my rifles to be accurate as possible, but still reliable at the same time. You know what I mean?
Not sacrificing one for the other.
Yeah, in anticipation that I might use that rifle in less than ideal circumstances. I kind of err towards the side of reliability sometimes myself. And if a guy ever potentially anticipated having to use a rifle in a real world situation, such as like elk hunting or defense or whatever you're doing, then you want to have it done that way.
You want it to be reliable.
Yep. But at the same time, for extreme long-range precision shooting, that's something that you're gonna be edging on that experience level from competition shooters. Okay, and so it's kind of more of a specialty part of the craft when you're talking about that.
Yeah, it is.
Because like, for example, probably a good pool to choose from of gunsmiths is people who are maybe have more experience in like the extreme long-range precision shooting matches, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're shooting NRAF class, which is sitting from a bench rest shooting, you're going to want to find a guy who's into that to do your rifle for you. That means he's got this heavy, huge rifle with a big wide forend and the stock. The thing weighs like a lot. You're not going to be carrying it around. It's going to have like a ridiculously light, just beautiful crisp trigger, and it's going to do excellent at what it's designed for. You're going to be punching holes in paper awesome.
But when you don't have that thing neatly secured to the bench and you're out shooting it, you're going to want to keep it in a museum because you don't want any dust on that.
Sure.
You want to keep
so
it clean.
It's like a race car, like a drag racing car, right?
And like you said earlier, it's like a specialty vein of the craft because you're taking this and you're taking the real world applications plus the competition and taking everything to the whole next level.
Right. So if all you're going to do is competition shooting from the bench, then build a bench rest rifle, right? But if you want this rifle to be carried around and used like in military applications, you want to find someone who has experience doing that. And some of those guys, like one of my gunsmiths down south of here, who I go to, he's a ex-Marine. Well, I guess they're not really an ex-Marine. They don't ever quit being Marines. And that stuff sticks to those guys. You know what I'm saying? So he's a Marine, and he understands the criteria that's needed for having a reliable rifle. People like that are going to understand a lot more of the importance of, like we talked about before, mobility, ruggedness, and reliability.
And at the same time, it's also versatility because you shouldn't have to sacrifice one thing to gain another.
Exactly.
Much less...
He's going to know how to milk all of the performance accuracy-wise out of that rifle without sacrificing those other deals.
Exactly.
Yep. So he's going to know the proper trigger, the proper setting of that trigger, and the right way to chamber the rifle and all that for that application. Another really good pool to choose from if you're looking for gunsmiths for real-world applications of extreme long-range rifle shooting is like there's a lot of different competitive circles where they do like courses, like sniper courses. One of them, I believe, they're called the PRS courses, and it's like precision rifle shooting guys. There are a lot of tactical guys, a lot of police guys, a lot of military competing to see best shooters from all over the country. And there's a few gunsmiths out there who are into that, who know what's kind of needed for like a sniper rifle that's mobile, has enough of the modularity to where you can get everything situated the way it needs to be for running around with the rifle and making quick shots from various positions, unsupported, supported, artificial support, all the different things that you're going to do. You're going to be laying prone, you're going to be shooting, they're going to be able to get the right configuration for you when you're doing a custom rifle build, for example.
To make it as versatile as possible for your specific needs.
Yep. So a lot of people, they choose what configuration they're going to do with their long-range precision rifle based on the ninja factor.
The cool factor.
The cool factor. The chicks dig it factor, as they say, right?
So once again, what kind of cool do you want to be?
Right. So if you're and there's a lot of people who do this, and I can't be totally against it because it is fun. If you're one of the guys who likes to build a really cool-looking rifle, and they're perusing the websites, finding just like the most tactical-looking stock chassis possible, and then they get the most in vogue optic, and they put it on there or whatever, and it hangs on the wall to impress your buddies because it's so tactical-looking, right? Tactical.
You have sacrificed all reliability for...
Or maybe not, but I mean, your selection, you got this thing on the wall that's a display item.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or, maybe there was something that would have been more smart.
Or maybe you were going for functional art.
Yeah, that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's another deal where you really do want someone with actual experience in whatever you're going to be doing. So if the guy has experience in hanging guns on the wall, then that's a good guy for them. If the guy has experience, doing military stuff for long-range rifle precision shooting, then that's the guy you want to do for that. So again, you always want to make sure they understand what you're going for here. Mm-hmm. But like my personal preference is for a functional firearm.
That also looks pretty.
Well, it can look pretty, and sometimes ugly to me is pretty. Because ugly means like overbuilt, stupidly rugged, incredibly effective. Like I want to be able to jump on it. I mean, I actually am kind of like way hard on my stuff. I broke almost everything I own.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I break stuff all the time. So I learned a lot what works and what doesn't. And I know that sometimes having it kind of overly rugged I like it that way because your rifle's pretty much worthless when it's broke.
True story.
You can have the coolest whatever that's on there, the coolest scope, the coolest trigger. If the stupid thing doesn't work because you broke it or because it got to 40 below with a little bit of moisture on it before, like you're in a moist car with the heater on, and then you go outside and it's 40 below and the trigger freezes up or something happens, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So all that millions of dollars you spent on your toy, your precious toy, was all in vain because it didn't work when you needed it. And Murphy always kicks in when you really don't want him to.
And then you're back to just hanging it back on the walls. So
yeah, right.
Comes full circle.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to find someone with expertise in that field and experience. And there's a few different guys out there who are pretty good at that. One deal that gets overlooked, I think, but most gunsmiths are pretty well aware of consistency when it comes to gunsmithing, right? You want to make sure that rifle is going to be able to be mated up nice and squarely, truing the action, making sure it's all cut nice and square so that when it's under recoil, everything's balanced out. And you got consistent recoil on each side of the front of the action, where how the barrel's threaded into the action. Those are a lot of details that most of your basic gunsmiths are going to be familiar with. However, in certain crafts like this, there are a lot of tricks of the trade, and you can get really good performance. Now, most gunsmiths should be able to get you within, like standard bolt action, they should get you under a minute of angle, no problem, under an inch group at 100 yards without too much difficulty. Pretty decent one should be able to get you in there with reloads under half an inch. And I don't know a lot of different rifle outfits, even custom rifle builders, who will guarantee like half minute accuracy.
And that is one of the things, isn't it? Is accuracy guarantee?
Well, yep, and that's something that you do want to look for. And that is a criteria that's pretty simple to look at. You can look at what kind of accuracy level do they guarantee. And you might be surprised which rifle companies or which different custom builders, what they guarantee. We guarantee 1 inch. Ugh. Well, sometimes you can get them all in the same hole, but sometimes you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You want to err on the side of 0 inches, if possible, right?
Ideally.
You know what I'm saying? Because when you're shooting like 1,200 yards plus, it starts to grow on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot
the
of room
cone of fire disperses.
There's a lot of room out there.
There's a lot of room out there for exactly.
So with that and the finer sciences, because that's what you do, is break everything down scientifically, beyond consistency of build and workmanship, there's also harmonics.
Yes, and that's actually something that it seems like maybe this guru language or something that's like maybe like kind of like voodoo or something, but it actually makes a ginormous difference, and that's a word I invented for that situation right there. Okay,
Ginormous, not harmonics.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, but no, I mean rifle harmonics and understanding how that works is incredibly important, because when your round goes off, you got a harmonic wave going down through the rifle, right? And depending on exactly which equipment you got hooked up to that rifle, that wave is going to hit different things.
It'll affect things.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of small details that can really wreak havoc on a rifle system. And you might be able to still tune a rifle that's not harmonically sound with a particular load. Like, if you have to work up a load for your rifle to get it to shoot all the bullets in one hole, that rifle is not yet completely harmonically sound. Oh,
Quiet
There's
on
an animal
set.
down here.
Quiet on set.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, for example, if you got a trigger mechanism and the action is hung in there, sometimes these aftermarket triggers have different external dimensions to them. Mm-hmm. And now it might be touching the rifle stock inside there, and that can actually be a point to where it reverberates a harmonic vibration.
Resonance?
Yeah, it can really throw off that wave, and it can actually, there's certain points of contact that you don't want to have. Yep. And a gunsmith who's well versed in these different pieces of equipment in the field you're talking about is going to be able to identify those ahead of time, so he's not going to be screwing around. And because you can develop a load that's kind of riding the harmonics for that particular weird rifle, but ideally you should be able to put any kind of ammunition in the rifle and it all shoots in the same hole. Mm-hmm. It can be done, but you have to have complete harmonic soundness. And finding someone who actually understands it. There's actually this guy that I met recently. He's down in Texas, in the Fort Worth area, Dallas-Fort Worth area down there. And he's pretty sharp guy. He does a lot of this competition shooting, the PRS shooting and stuff. And he's got a lot of time under his belt doing the competition. And he actually does like training courses and stuff.
Really?
Yep. And I was visiting with him about rifle harmonics. And this guy actually really knows what he's talking about. So there's guys like that you want to actually find. And I'll put his information in the video here, too, if anyone looking.
You said that he actually trained under Gordy Gritters, didn't you?
Yeah, Gordy Gritters, yeah. And for those of you who don't know about him, he's a pretty well-respected gunsmith. He's built, like, you know, rifles that have won, like, world records and set national records and things like that. So he trained under him. So he learned a lot of the idiosyncrasies and a lot of the trade secrets, kind of, because, like, normally, for example, with the harmonics again, one of the things a particular gunsmith will do is, you know, lap the bolt lugs. So on a bolt-action rifle, you have two lugs that when you close the bolt, the lugs fall into the little tracks. Mm-hmm. And then when the round goes off, the thing recoils. And you want the lugs to be mated evenly. So they put lapping compound on there and they work the bolt to make sure that it's all lapped properly. Well, there's some tricks, and I don't know if I should share some top secret tricks. I don't think I will. Ooh. We'll let the other people handle that. But there's tricks that can make that work a lot better. And there's things harmonically that happen that a lot of normal gunsmiths might not be aware of. As far as most people lap the back of the bolt lugs. Well, actually there's reasons to lap the fronts as well, too. And there's other harmonic anomalies that occur commonly in a lot of tactical rifles based on some weird things. For example, the muzzle brakes. Actually, muzzle brakes, you know, for as much time as a gunsmith spends chambering the rifle, making sure everything's perfect with the chamber, perfectly aligned with the axis of the bore, right? You want the chamber where the cartridge goes in to be, like, lined up with the bore, right? You don't want it to be, like, cockeyed, right? The bullet will make it out the front, but it's not going to be happy. But no, so a lot of gunsmiths spend a lot of time making sure everything's nice and you got good, you know, everything's just nice and perfectly square.
On the muzzle brake.
Yeah, well, that's the trick, though, because most guys are familiar with the chamber, but when it comes to the muzzle brake, they'll just measure off the outside diameter, or even if they go off the bore diameter to get the brake mounted, they won't take near as much time. It's more of a simple process. You just cut it down. A muzzle brake's pretty easy to you cut threads on there and then screw it on. It's not that hard. You got to time it so it indexes so it's right up and down. But actually, there's some things that happen there too with muzzle brake pull-off effect. That if that sucker ain't perfectly square and aligned and centered and tight and done correctly, and that muzzle brake design has to be correct as well for the rifle to perform well, especially when you're talking about large calibers. So if you're shooting like 300s and up, 338s, 416s, 408 Shitax, 375 Shitax rifles like this, and you can watch a video I did a long time ago on muzzle brake pull-off effect, is going to take effect before the bullet exits the barrel. And the muzzle brake is actually in action for a short period of time. On large caliber weapons, it's exacerbated enough to notice a significant difference. Okay? And so there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of when you're shooting rifles like that, like laying squarely behind it so the rifle can recoil, proper hold of the rifle. You know, I mean, there's a lot of tricks involved in extreme long-range shooting, especially with large caliber weapons. You get into the 50s especially, it's like very noticeable. But at any rate, the guy who I was talking to down in Texas, his name is Mr. McCoy, Paul McCoy. And,
no relation.
Yeah, no, this is Lou McCoy, but yeah, no relation. But he's actually like pretty well versed in that stuff, and it was pretty entertaining to talk to someone who actually knew what was going on with all those details. So if you're looking for someone who's competent in that and already kind of has a lot of the bugs worked out ahead of time, and he did train under the master, you know, and he's got another thing you want to look for too is someone who has machining skills.
Mm-hmm. Not only the skills, but also the tools.
Yeah, and the right tools, yep. Because you gotta, I mean, when it comes down to cutting the metal, you can understand all the idea of what you're trying to accomplish, but if you can't translate that into cutting the metal on the right spot, then it's all in vain too. Like that's where I fall short. I don't have the tools, and if I did, I'm not a machinist. I'm not a machinist. I play with milling machines, and I've milled stuff before, and I have friends, a lot of different friends who do gunsmithing, and but you got to find someone who actually knows how to make that stuff work properly. So when you're talking about doing your milling and your machine work, you want to find a machinist. So that's a good thing to have for a gunsmith, is someone who actually is like a properly trained machinist makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. Paul McCoy down there in Texas, he actually does a pretty good job with the machining. He was building like drag racing engines down there.
That's how he started out, I hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Machining drag.
And he's properly trained under like some world-class machinists. And he did that for a while, doing like high-end competition drag racing engines for the big dragsters, the 2,000 horsepower engines, for that. That makes credibility. Yeah, exactly.
But it all just kind of ties back into and reiterates the first point that when you're looking for a high-quality gunsmith, to first of all just look at their resume. Yeah. See where their expertise are, see what they've done, see what kind of tools they have, see what they can do, and just, figure it out.
Yep.
Figure it out, because, like you say, there's a lot of subtleties to the art, and finding somebody who knows those subtleties for the certain niche of the craft it can be tough to find, but once you do, it's worth it.
Yep. Exactly. Hit! Oh! Hit! Hit! Hit dead center. Your turn.